Welcome back to Carneades.org. Today we're going to be starting a brand new mini-series looking at what is Lewis's trilemma, also known as the liar, lunatic, and Lord argument. Now, C.S. Lewis has a famous argument for the existence of a Christian God, which has been repurposed in various ways over time. It is called Lewis's trilemma, the liar, lunatic, Lord argument, the bad, mad, or God argument, or the charlatan, madman, or God argument. The argument claims that when Jesus said he was God, he was either insane, a con man, or telling the truth. Given he was not insane or a con man, he must be God. In this mini-series, we're going to evaluate this argument. In this video, we're going to cover the basics of the argument and some of the initial defenses for its premises. Then, in the following 3 videos, we will look at objections attacking each of the horns of the trilemma, arguing that Jesus was a liar, arguing that Jesus was a lunatic, and then arguing that this is a false trilemma, and the story of Jesus is just a legend. Now, before digging into this argument itself, it's helpful to understand who C.S. Lewis was originally attacking with this argument. He directs this argument at people who think that Jesus was a good teacher or philosopher, but just a man, not God, not the Messiah, not a prophet, not anything like that. His argument, then, is to claim that such a position is untenable, as one cannot think that a good, honest, sane teacher would lie about being God. In his book Mere Christianity, Lewis says, "A man who is merely a man and said the sort of things Jesus said would not be a great moral teacher. He would either be a lunatic, on the level of a man who says he's a poached egg, or else he would be the devil of hell." This initial goal is important to understand, as this argument has often been used to do more than it was originally intended to do, either as a flat-out proof of God, or toward people who think that the teachings of Christianity are harmful. The argument fails against such positions, not because of a flaw in its initial design, but because that wasn't its original audience. In this series, we're going to look at both the kind of weaker argument that Lewis initially presents that has this very narrow focus, as well as the broader argument that tries to argue the case for Jesus being God to a wider audience, even though that don't accept him as kind of a good human moral teacher. So, with this in mind, here's one formulation of the argument, focused specifically on Lewis's original intention of targeting those that thought Jesus merely a human moral philosopher or teacher, but a good one. Premise 1, Jesus was either a liar, a lunatic, or speaking the truth when he claimed to be God. Premise 2, if you think that Jesus was a moral human teacher, he could not have been a lunatic, as insane people do not make good moral teachers. Premise 3, if you think Jesus was a moral human teacher, he could not have been a liar, as con men do not make good moral teachers. And finally, therefore, if you think Jesus was a good moral human teacher, then to remain consistent, you must also believe he was God. Another formulation attempts to generalize the argument to apply to anyone, and therefore has a higher burden of proof and a slightly different formulation. Premise 1, Jesus was either a con man, a madman, or speaking the truth when he claimed to be God. Premise 2, Jesus was not a con man, as a con man would not have actually sacrificed himself. He would have escaped or recanted when he had the chance. Premise 3, Jesus was not a madman, as he would not have gathered as much of a following as he did if he was insane. People do not follow someone that is just crazy. Therefore, Jesus must have been God. Note that this has slightly different justifications that it's looking for. It's justifying things based on kind of the historical record of Jesus, not this idea that he was a good moral human teacher. And so a lot of the objections are going to work for both of these arguments, but some are going to need to necessarily be focused on one or the other. In this series that follows, we'll look at 3 primary objections to this argument. First, we'll look at the possibility of the claim that Jesus was a con man or a liar. Second, we'll look at the possibility that Jesus was a madman or a lunatic. And finally, we will look at the objection that this is a false trilemma, that there are other options than these 3 options. Sometimes this is called the Jesus was a legend option, and we'll stick with that title just for alliteration, but this is also going to include a lot of other options, such as the possibility that Jesus never even existed, Jesus was a guru, Jesus never made claims about his own divinity, etc. So the next video we'll be looking at Jesus was a liar, then we'll be looking at Jesus was a lunatic, and finally we'll take a look at Jesus was a legend. What do you think? Was Jesus a con man? Was he a liar? Or is this a false trilemma and there's actually another option? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Watch this video and more here at Carneades.org. Subscribe, hit the notification bell if you like this video and you want to see more. And as always, stay skeptical, everybody.